Welcome to Horsebytes, your go-to source for keeping up with the show jumping world. It was a jam-packed week of show jumping with particularly prestigious classes happening across the globe. With the 5-star out of Shanghai putting on a real show at a brand new venue, the 5-star in Windsor attracting many top combinations from the home nation, and 2 4-stars in Canteleu and Montefalco, the spring season is in full swing. We also saw the FEI Sports Forum take place in Lausanne, where horse welfare was the primary theme across the 2-day conference. New rule changes will be proposed on June 26, so stay tuned for those, as well as new anti-doping protocols, a review of diminished desire of organizers to host championships, as well as guidelines for gender equality across the industry. As our sport evolves and begins to become more data-based, we thought we'd cover the details of the ELO rating system from Equiratings to further clarify its use. And with horse travel exploding across the globe, we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how our furry friends make it from place to place. But first, let's take a look at this week's winners from across the planet. The biggest winners of the week were Gilles Thomas and Luna Van Het Dennehoff at the Global in Shanghai, where they were first to go and set the pace with 6 more combinations unable to catch them. They picked up $200,000 and their golden ticket to the Super Grand Prix come the playoffs. Martin Fuchs and Leonie J took a spectacular win in the Rolex Grand Prix at the Royal Windsor Horse Show for the 2nd year in a row. They picked up €125,000, beating out the likes of Gregory Watelet and Steve Gerdin. The CSI 4-star in Canteleu went to Kevin Stow and Vita Loca Z in a 5-horse jump-off, while the CSI 4-star Montefalco saw Pedro Venice and Nimrod Demuse Z take the win in Italy. Welcome to Showstopper, powered by Equiratings. All right, we've been talking about the ELO rating system from Equiratings a lot over the past few months, but we thought we'd give you a little refresh to familiarize you guys with the lingo and dive deeper into why it matters. We touched on the ELO rating in episode 1, so make sure to go check it out. But let's reiterate what we're actually trying to measure. Think of it like batting average in baseball. We're trying to compare performance. Basically, how many times you compete against how many times you do it successfully, and who you beat or lose to. When comparing horses to each other, in other words, measuring who is the better horse, what might you look at? Entrance rate? How often does a horse compete? Clear round rate? How often do they accomplish the goal of 0 faults? Win rate, how often they actually prevail, or which horses beat other horses consistently, so not necessarily winning the class, but beating out competitors week after week, finishing higher in the placings, basically. And very simply, try to remember this. An ELO of over 775 is great. That's a top-level horse in our sport and accounts for only 1% of all CSI 5-star level meter 60 rounds over the last 10 years or so. It also means that the horse is jumping over 58% of the time clear. An ELO of 650 to 674 is a nice average rate, accounting for 14% of total rounds and a 27% clear rate. If the horse is in this range, it's right in the middle of the pack, and if it's between 675 and 774, it's above average. If the horse has an ELO below 500, its clear rate is only 7%. But luckily, only 3% of horses jumping 5-star meter 60 level have a rating this low. So try to remember this. Below 500 to around 650 is below average. 650 to 774 is solid. And above 775 is exceptional. The algorithm of the ELO is proprietary to Equiratings, but takes into account many factors that could influence the rating. The ELO changes differently depending on the level of competition. For example, a horse will get more ELO points for a win in CSI 5-star meter 60 class than for a win in a CSI 4-star meter 50 class. That makes sense. The ELO will also change differently depending on the horse's career position. For the first 12 rounds of a horse's career at CSI 4 and 5-star meter 50 plus level, we will see bigger changes up and down in their ELO than later in their career. For example, a 9-year-old horse jumping its first 4-star meter 50 will get more ELO points for a win in that class than a 16-year-old horse on the same ELO, but that has been jumping that level for years. In every competition except team competitions, the ELO growth or loss is based on their finishing position in a particular class, so who they beat and were beaten by. The quality of who they beat and who they're beaten by will determine how big the boost or loss will be. Think of it like to beat or be defeated. So in every class a horse jumps, it's like, who did they finish ahead of, or who were they worse than? It's a trading system where they gain and lose points from their fellow competitors depending on where they finish. For example, King Edward has an ELO of 819, so he is more likely than not to beat a horse on an ELO of 725. If the 725 ELO horse were to beat King Edward in the same competition, the 725 horse would have a bigger ELO boost in points than if King Edward were to beat the 725. So, with that idea in mind, think of the ELO as having predictive power. It obviously isn't perfect because that's sport, but establishing the ELO helps us to determine who is more likely to win than someone else, and can be a very valuable metric in helping to decide selection for Nations Cups, championships, and of course the upcoming Olympic Games. It's Moneyball, people, and horse sport is starting to play by the numbers. Horse Bytes is brought to you by Symbiome, your partner for clean microbiome skincare. I'm not really a skincare person. I have really oily skin and can break out easily, so I just figured nothing was better than a whole ton of chemicals. Also, as a rider, I figured my face was covered by a helmet, so I just never prioritized it. But as I got older, I did want to help keep elasticity and smooth out years of damage done by riding out in the sun, all the while without putting too much crap on my face. Now, I actually found something that works great. The Answer Reparative Serum by Symbiome. I've learned the Answer is a powerful but really lightweight anti-aging serum that helps maintain healthy collagen and skin elasticity for a more youthful, radiant glow by stabilizing the skin microbiome. It's backed by 40+ years of clinical research, and the Answer infuses your skin with stem cell conditioned media, which is full of peptides, growth factors, exosomes, and cytokines. It yields long-lasting results, starting with a luminous, smooth, and renewed complexion. Great for pre- and post-sun exposure while you're out riding all day. All I know is that it's been my answer to effortless skincare where I actually notice a difference. It balances out the oil, smooths the lines, and manages to do it all with only 6 ingredients. Basically, I just look and feel younger, and that's enough for me. Follow the link to learn more about Symbiome and their unique approach to cutting-edge microbiome skincare, and use Danny20 for a 20% discount on their website. With horses traveling all over the world for competitions, we decided that this week on Weekly Wonder, we're going to show you how they do it, with a look behind the scenes of equine air travel. Horses are incredibly adaptive animals and handle travel far better than you'd expect. Plus, it's sort of amazing the logistics of how it happens. Take a look at this amazing behind-the-scenes footage. We also spoke with a professional equine air travel expert, Tim Sillevis, about the details behind this huge undertaking. Tim has been traveling with horses for over 9 years, with everything from pleasure horses to foals to Arabians to Olympic champions. He has seen it all, and we got a chance to catch up with him where he gives us a few pointers about the do's and don'ts of flying horses. What should you do as a horse owner before sending your horse on a flight?
I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, every horse is different and every owner is different. Some people like to give fluids. I'm all for that. Other people don't. If you know that your horse is happy to drink out of a water bucket, then they should be fine. We don't usually have very many problems like that.
Cool. What would you say horses actually struggle with the most with air travel?
The noise.
The noise?
The noise and the sideways moving in the stalls.
Because they're unbalanced?
Because they make the process as smooth as they can, but obviously they're loading in essentially a steel box onto a plane. So, and the partitions, unlike a horse truck, are not, they don't have the rubber flap at the bottom, so they're solid all the way down. So when they get jagged slightly sideways, if they need to catch their balance, they can't spread their legs as easily as they can on the truck.
Interesting. Do they brace for takeoff and landing?
They sit back quite often.
They do. Interesting. Really cool. What happens if something goes wrong?
We have our sort of protocol. If need be, we can sedate them. Quite often on the big charter flights for the Olympics, global champions, we have vets on board that can sort of take over the situation.
Oh, that's good. So there's always a professional that can like
On the big
oversee.
flights, yeah.
Interesting. Like, what would be the most important thing that you should do before sending your horse on a flight?
Make sure that they get some rest, especially if it's a long flight. If they're flying to Australia, it's a very long process, and that you don't work the horses too much the day before. And just keep an eye on how much fluid they're intaking the day before, because obviously you want them to be as hydrated as possible throughout the flight. That helps a lot with avoiding travel sickness.
Yeah. Do people give a lot of fluids themselves, like extra fluids before they travel?
Yes, we don't know exactly what happens to all the horses before they arrive at the airport, but we can see what state they're in when they arrive, and if we think that fluids need to be given, then we can recommend it at the airport.
Oh, that's smart. So you can give it like right up too.
Right.
But now let's take a look at some wild things one can jump over.
Oh my God, look at this. He's jumping over a horse. Holy cow. Did you even think that that was possible? What happens if the horse like rears or something? Oh my God, that's kind of impressive. This is one brave dad or trainer. Unbelievable. I don't know if I would be brave enough to do that. Damn! Look how cute, Capoonie. And this is not a horse, but that is some impressive jumping. Holy cow, those are really big. And she's like, doesn't even have the balance of her hands. Those are your wild things of the week.
That's a wrap on this week's top highlights. Stay tuned to all of our socials. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow along all the action as it unfolds here on Horse Bytes, your go-to source for keeping up with the show jumping world.